in hosting a fair, we're going to try to kind of take it from the standpoint of we may have never done this before, so how would we get started and what are some of the things to consider? And we will talk about virtual fairs and some of the struggles, challenges we're facing, and some of the decisions we've made at the district level and at our campus level. So I do have a PowerPoint that I want to share, but this is a roundtable discussion. So please, the PowerPoint more is for me, honestly, so that it keeps me on track. So I keep myself where I need to be. But please, please, speak up if you have questions as we move. Cindy's going to be monitoring the chat so we can keep track that way. And we know exactly who has questions and what we need to do, okay? So, first of all, I have put everything I have from this presentation into a folder, and there is the Bitly site. You have access to everything that I have. Everything I use, everything, every form, every brochure, anything I have that I thought might help you, you have access to. And I am here for you. I'll give you my email address. You email me, I will share anything I have. I just want you to know that ahead of time. So, first of all, guys, this is not a one-man job. It really takes a village. Hold on, I'm trying to admit people as we go. Teachers, they are the front line. You have to engage these teachers. Hold on just a second.
Hey, Lisa, I'll admit people.
Okay, good, thank you. So gather your team. You need teachers, you need administrators, you need all kinds of people. You need your kids to be involved and maybe find some of your kid leaders. We need to spread the word. Teachers are the front line for that. You've got to have your SRC in place. Hallelujah, Tammy Hyde is in our district, and I do not know what I would do without her and Sally. Teachers support students. They help you approve the research plans. They help with all the paperwork. They help with Scienteer. They have to approve frontline projects. You need teachers to help you. You cannot do this by yourself. You also need your administrators, your IRB, which Tammy was talking about in the SRC meeting. You've got to have a school nurse, an administrator, AP, principal, and another teacher that's an expert to go to drive that IRB. You also need your administrator support for advertising, getting the word out, setting up club locations, where to have your fair if you're not doing virtual. So you do need administrators as well as that school nurse. This year is unique because we know the school nurse has so many other things going on. But to approve these projects, it is fairly simple, and it just takes, they just have to take time to look at them carefully. Okay? All right, so one of the things that we have done that I think has increased our participation is the fact that we have really made an effort in our branding and advertising of the fair. We really try to make it a big deal. We put our brand, Science Fair logo on everything. We spread the word through open house, advisory meetings. Every single kid that's taking science gets the information. We have signs, we have brochures. Every teacher announces to their classes, whether they're doing it brick and mortar or virtually, they talk about science fair. On our learning platforms that we're using this year, that information form is on there. We have school websites, we have a district website set up. You gotta find ways to get these kids interested, catch their attention, and say, hey, I might want to do that. We do offer a lot of swag. I'm probably the queen of swag. But I love to do little things that puts the word out there. Last year, we do t-shirts every year. I started doing that so when all our kids would go to Houston, they would wear their t-shirts and it would say CCISD. And then we have them wear them to state along with their Houston shirts. So I put that out there. I put those t-shirts out there, and every kid that enters a project in our district fair gets a t-shirt. I did cups with our logo on it. I did pencils. I do anything I can think of. And there's a lot of vendors out there that have pretty cheap stuff. I don't mean cheap like throw it away, but the cost is good. So I do whatever I can find. And sometimes I send word out, and I'm going to this year to our magnet campuses to get kids to come up with ideas for our logo this year. What are we gonna, last year I think it was Young Scientists, Big Ideas. So, I want kids to have input and teachers input into that. But I do whatever I can to get the word out. Kids see other kids wearing their science fair t-shirts. We try to make it a big deal. Counting kids, it is so important to keep track of all of the kids that are participating. Of course, Scienteer has a spreadsheet function, and we do use that. In the past, when sixth graders, we were not using Scienteer, we had a separate sixth grade form. I'm not sure whether we're going to do sixth grade at Houston or not this year, but I did share the form that the sixth graders fill out. We have mimicked several of the Scienteer forms. They still have approval forms. They still have to turn in a research form. They still have approval form. They have to do everything that the other kids do, just not in Scienteer. I do have a district registration, and we do track all kids through a Microsoft form. We're a Microsoft district, so we've set up a form and a template, and every kid will fill out this form, giving us information, giving us t-shirt sizes, giving us parent emails, so we have direct contact with parents, and we know everything that we need, that I know I need, is in that form. And that is handled at the campus level. Okay, any questions so far? Cool. All right.
No questions so far.
Good. We have science fair sponsors at every campus, and they are our lifelines. They're wonderful. We treat science fair like a club, and we call them sponsors. They do get a stipend, and they are required to meet twice monthly, at least through October, November, to help kids, have kids come in and say, okay, let's look at your topic. Well, let's refine it. Let's tweak it. What about your safety? Where are you in Scienteer? How are you planning? Are you finished? Are you ready to start your experimentation? All those kind of things. So it is a club. They do meet. This year it is virtually. But when kids come back, most of our kids come back on Monday, unless they've chosen otherwise, then they will start having meetings face-to-face. These kids need support. It's so hard to try to manage all of this, and kids get confused and they get rattled, and they just need somebody to say, okay, what's the next step? That's good. What's the next step? Keep moving forward. Okay. Location. I left this slide in here because it is important. I know some campuses will be having on-campus fairs. I don't know how they'll handle that, but it is important. But for now, let's talk about a virtual fair. Some of the things that we have had to consider. Do we want to do it completely asynchronous, or do we want to have a synchronous function? We have decided at our level to do completely asynchronous. We could not wrap our brains around, and we talked about it long and hard. We could not wrap our brains around how to get kids to present virtually to judges when some kids may be out, some schools may be closed, some classrooms, kids may be home, quarantining. So we just thought, you know what, at this point and at our level, we're going to do everything asynchronous. We did talk about how to have kids present, and can y'all hear me? Okay. We wanted to make sure that it was something simple enough that all kids could do. We decided on, we looked at all kinds of things. We looked at the Microsoft Stream. We looked at this, we looked at that. We thought about YouTube. What we just landed on was just a simple PowerPoint, voice over PowerPoint. And we've provided some guidance on what slides need to be there. And now that I saw Heather's presentation this morning, I'm going to go back and revisit and make sure our slides align with what Houston needs. And we've given them a timeline of 5 to 7 minutes. And we're talking very carefully to them, closely to them about how to make it count. This is your way this is your voice. This is your project, make it count. We talked about where to house those presentations and how to get kids to upload them. In that Microsoft form that I talked about on the previous slide, on that form, the last two things are, here's a place to upload the link to your PowerPoint. And the last question is, here's a link to upload, here's a place to upload your link to your virtual logbook. We have gone virtual with our logbook as well. We are using class OneNote. And Tammy Hyde has set up, and her campus, our Magnet campus, set up a virtual logbook so the kids know exactly what needs to be in there. And everything they have, each requirement is a page. You know, here's my citations, here's my data, here's my observations, here's my title, here's my everything, that in thinking in terms of corresponding also to the presentation. But we do have places where they upload, and we will have links in our Microsoft form to both the presentation and the logbook. I want to say judging is still messy. We're still kind of looking at how this is going to work out. We're going to probably have to use Teams, but I was thinking about that this morning. I don't know what platform we'll use. How will we give judges access to the presentations? Through our spreadsheet, I'm thinking will be an easy way to do that. I have our fair stretched out over 3 days because I just didn't know at this point whether it would take 1 day or whether I want to do like physical science 1 day and engineering another day and so forth. You've got to think about your forms. If you're in the past, we've all been doing face-to-face. The judges fill out the forms. We count, we do this, we do that. All of those forms are going to need to be converted to a fillable type thing, excuse me. and we got to figure out where to house them, right? So those are some things that we're considering. As you consider your fair, if you're going virtual, I would love to hear from you, because we are, what my superintendent loves to say, building a plane as we fly it. Well, that's what we're doing. So any suggestions here? Any questions here?
We haven't had any suggestions or questions to this point.
Okay. All righty. We'll have a chance. Chew on that for a minute. Think about that.
It says, is there any possibility with virtual presentations to provide for judge questions to the students? And this is from John and Gail Colwell.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we really thought long and hard about that. I can't think of a way to do that. If they're doing their presentations via PowerPoint and there's no synchronous piece to it where they're able to do that, I don't know how we would do that. But I would love any ideas that somebody could come up with. We probably will do our grand award judging synchronously. We'll have kids come in and log in. You can invite kids in. We use Teams, Microsoft Teams, and you can invite kids in and they can talk and answer questions. We were going to do that across the board, but it got too big. It was way too big for us to manage. We end up having probably 400 or 500 projects, and it was too much. But that's a good question. So if you can think of a way to do it, please let me know.
So Lisa, one person has said here, Arden, thank you, Arden. We are a Google district, and a Google form would work well for organizing judges forms, and we could be sorted by project number for fair coordinator. Also, we have folks saying, could the judges make comments? Someone mentioned Flipgrid presentations, which is a great idea.
Yeah.
In fact, more than one person mentioned Flipgrid presentations. And one person said, I already have the judge forms in Google format for 3 years now. Good job, John Glenn. And then one person said Google Slides enable comments for judges. Thank you, Stephanie Brooks, for that.
Okay, yes. So yeah, absolutely. We need judge feedback. And we will, and yes, there will be a place within there for judges to give the kids feedback. Yes. It may be that if we do it over a couple of days, if judges have specific questions, then maybe that's something we can manage outside of that asynchronous platform through me, or, I can contact and ask specific questions if needed. But all good ideas, absolutely.
Lisa, we have a question in which the person, Crystal Davis, says, she asks questions randomly. Should students continue to make physical boards as well as online presentations? And then also one individual said Flipgrid could also work in the reverse direction. John Glenn says Flipgrid can do judge feedback as well.
Could, absolutely. If you're doing what we're doing, which is the voiceover PowerPoint, the recorded PowerPoint, the PowerPoint is your board. That is your board. Everything that would be on that board is in your presentation. If you're doing a Flipgrid, you could, if the kids wanted to do a board and have it in the background as they're talking, that would be fine. If we had that option, I would allow that. We just chose not to this year. Who knows what'll happen?
Oh, here, Jean L says, I've used Google Slides or G Slides, and they've worked well for judges' feedback.
Okay,
would you have an example of what the PowerPoint would look like for a student? Michelle asks.
Not yet.
Not yet. We're working that one, Michelle.
We're working on that. I'm trying to, I did a PowerPoint on how to do a PowerPoint. Does that make sense? I did a PowerPoint on how to set up your presentation, and my intent is to do a voiceover with it and take the kids through this. And so that's kind of their example. But no, I don't have any examples yet. Like I said, we're building this plane in the air.
Hey, Lisa.
Oh, why
Hey.
not do a presentation on Zoom where the judges are there, they can ask questions. That's the purpose of the science fair, is to have interaction between judges and the presenter.
Lisa, Joey Segura is here, and he has some really good ideas. He's from Brookside, where I work, so I am honored to see him here today. Joey has some good ideas on that topic.
Yeah, share, Joey. You've been working on your campus fair.
Yeah, just a couple of suggestions. I know Flipgrid was mentioned. The one thing that you want to be careful with Flipgrid is that you don't want your students to only house their video on Flipgrid, because then it becomes just on that online database. So if Flipgrid were to go down, so with the video, so you want to make sure that your students, when they are recording their video, that they are recording them and saving them either on like a OneDrive or their actual computer, or really I would suggest like a USB stick, memory stick for that one. One thing that we're considering over at Brookside, we are one of the magnet programs over at CCISD. So we're going to have upwards of 300 projects in there. And just kind of that time slot and getting judge feedback is a little bit, or the real-time synchronous judge feedback is a little bit difficult. One thing that we are considering is using our campus fairs just to do it like Lisa was saying, but once we get our population of students who move forward to, who qualify for, I think we're gonna go with probably Science and Engineering of Houston. So students that qualify for that particular competition, within the classroom setting, that's what I'm going to try and recruit some of our judges to be able to kind of give one-on-one feedback and kind of practice that judge interaction that you would see. So, I mean, my suggestion is if you have a large fair is to kind of go that asynchronous route, and then as your population gets smaller, as they go up in competition, you know, that's where I would try and find the time to do judge interaction with that. And that could be, you know, judges from your community, some of your parents, or some of the teachers that are at your school. Just a suggestion. I'm still trying to figure out as we go and everything like that, but that's kind of where I'm starting off.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking. And find ways for kids to actually present and talk about their project outside of that presentation to adults. That is important.
And as one thing that a suggestion I would have is, as your student builds their project, you don't want the first time for them recording these presentations to be when they have a fully complete project. What I would suggest is, as they go through, if you're looking at Scienteer, as they go through like the rationale, the procedures, the materials, I would have them create mini videos based off of just those tiny little sections. So if your student completes their rationale, then I would have them do a quick little rationale blurb. So that way, if you're a teacher that has ever flipped, you know how awkward it can be talking to a camera and recording your videos for classes. Now imagine you're an 11 to 13-year-old student. That first recording is going to be very awkward. It's going to be very choppy. So I would have them do it in pieces. So that way, when they start recording for their final presentation, they've already gone through rationale, materials, bibliography, and procedures and everything like that in short little mini blurbs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you do a recorded PowerPoint, you can record slide by slide. You don't have to do it all in one big take.
So our representative from Science and Engineering Fair Houston, we're still getting comments about, will you have a qualification for a physical board for this year? Is SEFH still including this as a component of their judging rubric?
So great question. Thank you, Donnie, for that question. So no, we are not requiring a physical poster board. In lieu of the poster board, we are going to be using the PowerPoint slides that Dr. Domian had on her slide earlier. Now, I do want to add that the state fair will require a electronic version of a poster board. However, the suggestions of slides that we gave in the beginning today are in line with what the state is going to require. So our hope is that although we are not requiring students to make a board, they can simply copy and paste their PowerPoint slides, the information on those slides directly into the state's outline. And so again, the suggested slides that we included in our PowerPoint today is in line with what the state is going to require your students to put on their electronic board. Now, for our fair, right, for SCFH, we are not mandating certain headings be used, okay? We're not saying that this portion of the slide needs to be called or titled this. However, when you use the template for the state fair, they are mandating specific headings for different sections of their board, okay? So I just want to add that out there.
So you might as well get in line with the state, right?
You know, my argument against that is that not all boards are the same, not all projects are the same. And so the way a student creatively crafts their heading for different sections, we don't want to take away from students' creativeness, right? That is why we're not mandating that students give us a deck of slides that is 10 PowerPoint slides, right? We're not, we don't have those restrictions because again, this is an individual project that we still want our students to have that individuality and that their own, this is their project. We don't want to make it so structured that we take away from the creativeness and the inventiveness of what our students have to offer.
Yeah. Right. And I'm going to put out there what y'all suggested, but I feel the same way. And that creativity comes through, you know, that's when I talked about kids making it count. You know, this is your presentation. Find that creativeness through how you present your project and how you create your data and how you explain, go through your presentation. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have
electronic notebook. Lionel, what are y'all doing?
Yes, so we are not mandating that students turn in an electronic notebook. However, you know, that is a big component of what judges look at. And so if your students are still doing a physical notebook, the suggestion here is that they scan it and make it a complete document or complete PDF. So
Right.
What would I do if I were a teacher? I would definitely use an electronic notebook. Why? Because you're not then going backwards, scanning pages, combining files into a electronic version of a physical notebook, right? Judges are still gonna look for that. If you know, students provide it, we'll have a space for students to upload that, again, that document and review it.
Okay, good question. Thank you. Judges, you can never have too many judges. We know that. Find ways to advertise on your website, involve the community. We send blurbs out through Facebook, on Twitter. I send out letters. Our campuses, our magnet campuses have already sent out their letters. You know, we'd love for, you know, from last year, here, you judged last year. Are you still interested in judging this year? And, you know, get your staff involved, get your teachers involved. District administration, I am at the district office. I'm the secondary science coordinator. I pull in my math coordinators and I involve them as well. Training, I put a quick little PowerPoint that I did that we asked judges to view prior to coming to the fair. And it just takes them through really thoughts and things to consider as you're judging. And that is in that Bitly file as well. Like I said, everything I had, everything I thought you could use, I put in there for you. And I'll go back to that in a minute here. And of course, we provide swag for judges. Like I said, I'm the swag queen. So these are
what
some
would-
things. I'm sorry, what?
They were just wondering what would be the virtual rubric that we're using for SEFH and TSEH?
So, Dr. Jacobs, if I understand correctly, you're talking about the judging rubric. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes. So we're still maintaining the use of the ISEF judging rubric. That will not change.
Yeah, we have a judging rubric that we use. That's pretty close, and I put it in the Bitly file as well, if you want to think in terms of campus fairs. Okay, so setting up, the most important thing is to over-organize. Over-organize. Try to think of everything that might come up. Judge security, one of the other things that we considered when we were thinking about having kids present to judges synchronously through Teams or Zoom is the safety concerns. You know, because I can't be, or an administrator can't be in every judging session. How do we maintain that these adult judges and talking to kids, and we just felt like that was something we couldn't control. Awards and ribbons, special awards, we will still be doing all of that. I don't know whether our awards will be virtual or face-to-face. Ask me in December. We want to try to do it face-to-face because it is a huge celebration. And these kids are so excited, especially our intermediate kids. They just are just hooping and hollering, and it is so much fun. We make it fun. So I don't want to lose that. But we'll do what we have to do, considering it's 2020. Again, make it a big deal. We email parents. We take all of our winners. That's why I want parent emails. And at the end, we email every single parent and say, let them know your kid has won some kind of award, just like Houston does. And these are our awards. So please come. We used to just leave it open and people would come, and then kids would be disappointed because they were sitting there and they didn't win anything. And that hurt my heart. So we send out invitations and parents wait for those. Okay, what else?
I could. I just want to add also I know we didn't talk much about the display and safety issue.
Oh, yeah.
So with regards to what, the rules and regulations for DNS, I still want to put a word of caution out there for all teachers, parents, and students is that we are not saying we're not doing a display and safety, right? We are still doing a display and safety. Because we don't have a physical board, your PowerPoint slides will be going through a display and safety review, right? So any citations that you need to put on, make sure your pictures are appropriate, make sure your pictures have the necessary crediting. Because our timeline between the DNS, SRC, DNS review, and judging is so tight, please take some time to work with your students to go over their slides to ensure that they are following the DNS rules. Mm-hmm. They don't have enough time to do a redo, right, of a PowerPoint recording. It takes time. And I think as it was shared earlier, I would suggest that the recordings happen in sections, perhaps, instead of having the students try to compile everything all at once. I would also suggest that we work with our students to script what they're going to say during their recording and not do everything laissez-faire. Guys, I can't emphasize enough that I am afraid, or not afraid, but I do have my concerns for what this is going to look like, right? And I want to give all students the best opportunity to compete, right? And I don't want a judge to say, hey, student one, their their presentation was so choppy and I couldn't understand what was going on. And so I'm going to docket points on its presentation, right? So let's work with our students so that they develop these stellar presentations.
Yeah, and when in the PowerPoint that the how to set up your presentation, that is one of the things that I really looked closely at and thought about, okay, this is what the board display and safety. Now let's think about what that would look like in a presentation. And if you can't take pictures of certain things and put them on your board, then you can't put them in your presentation. So some of those display and safety issues still come into play with that presentation. Anything else? It's going to be a good year. It's going to be different. Sometimes I sit back and say, yeah. Sometimes I call my peeps and say, hey, think about this. What should we do about this? Can we handle this? And it's just, we're doing the best we can, and that's all we can ask. And we will get kids to the Houston Fair. We'll get kids to district. We'll encourage them in their scientific endeavors, and that's what counts. That is what counts. It's that scientific process that we want to involve the kids in. That is the most important thing. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to also say, anything that you guys have questions in regards to judging, let's save that for the Judging Matters section. Andrew Capral, our judging chair there, will have a lot of answers for those of you. I know you guys are biting at the bit right now for judging. But if you guys have any questions in regards to leading up to the fair or what files students are going to have to turn in, I will be happy to answer that. So yes, feel free to ask away, guys. Here's your chance to say, hey, SCFH, you guys are ridiculous. Or here's your chance to say, hey, SCFH, we need to make the same considerations, or we don't know what we're doing either. Dr. Ramon, did you have a question, sir?
Yes. So one of the things I'm really thinking about is how much creativity can we give the students in terms of how to create their presentation. I know we're talking about PowerPoint, but I think we're talking about what the minimum. How about the upper end of it? Because some of them I'm already thinking, like we house a Digital Media Academy. They're very good at doing productions. Is a Mythbuster style of presentation gonna be allowed? Or do we set a minimum? You have to have a panel for your objective, a panel for your hypothesis, a panel for your, instead of just doing it Mythbuster style, they're out there in the field videoing themselves, explaining, something like that. So that's my other main concern.
Yeah. Good consideration, because I think if kids think in terms of this presentation is my board, and yes, I need to include everything that I would on my board, but also it's my presentation to toot my horn.
Exactly.
But that's really good. I did put my email address in the chat as well. Guys, as you're working, if you have any questions, need any help, say, hey, Lisa, what do you think? What are y'all doing? Please email me. I'm here. I don't mind a bit. And if I come up with other things, I'll put it in that little Bitly file for you to come. And when I finish that PowerPoint and it's voiceover, which I don't like because sometimes I sound like Dolly Parton when I am recorded, I will put it in there for you. Okay. Sometimes my East Texas accent comes out. What else?
I have a question. Is it possible for the kids to turn in a Google slide presentation rather than a PowerPoint presentation? Is the format going to make or break whether or not they can turn it in?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So for the regional level, it is mandated that it is a video, right? As long as you can turn that Google slide into a video of sorts, because when they do the file upload, right, that's what the judges are watching. That's what the judges are going to see. Yeah, unfortunately. So
I'm sorry. So what file type is going to be required for them to turn in?
So with the PowerPoint voiceover, you can convert that file into a video. And so that's what they're going to turn in, right? So it's going to be
Through YouTube? Is that what I
yes.
saw?
Yeah, it's through YouTube or Vimeo. I'm not very familiar with that one, through Vimeo. So that is what we are asking the judges to review. Now, to Dr. Ramon's point about being overly creative, as Miss Woolley here said, that your video is your PowerPoint. Your video is your poster board, right? That's your poster board. So if a judge watches your video once and then goes ahead and reviews it again to read the document or to read what's behind, what's on the slide, and the students don't have that, that's what they're judging, right? If the judges don't find what they're looking for, they'll get ding on it.
So they don't really have to have their face in the video. It's just purely voiceover.
Right. The
They don't
facial is not necessary. I know there's a way to embed your image in the corner of a PowerPoint when doing the voiceover or doing a video recording, but it is not required.
There was also a question in here that says, would it be okay for the kids to include a clip of them conducting the experiment? I'm okay with that. Lionel, what do you think?
So again, you have 7 minutes,
Yeah.
right? You have 7 minutes. One file upload for your video. The rest of your upload is your notebook, right? That would be one file upload. Your official abstract is another file upload. And if needed, your Form 1C and Form 7.
So as a embedded short, I mean, take that into account, the time limitations. But I suggested to our kids to use photographs instead, to use pictures. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it, a little quick little video clip, as long as it's embedded and doesn't interfere with the presentation itself. I would be okay with that.
Right, and just make sure that the video again follows DNS rules.
Absolutely.
Right, if
Absolutely.
your student is doing a dissection, no, that's not allowed. That's no.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with WeVideo. I think, what was that? I'm sorry.
WeVideo. Me either.
WeVideo. So I need to follow up. So after our session this afternoon, or after this roundtable discussion, Rocket Judge is going to be here. Rocket Judge is an online judging platform. That is who we will be using.
What does it cost?
That's a great question, Lisa. I don't work for Rocket Judge, so I cannot give you a direct answer.
But it is a pay-for platform.
Yes, but we are hoping that because we are going to be utilizing their services, that they can work with the district. I don't know if I'm not saying it's gonna be free, but hopefully they can work with you and speak with you, right? They know this is not the business to make money, right? The science fair, we do not make money, guys. We are losing money. Our judges want to believe that we can feed them up the yin yang, but we can't. So they look at me and they say, wow, you gave me a sandwich, that's it? Yeah, yes, that's all you get today. But no.
Maybe a cookie.
Yeah, they complain when we don't give them snacks. So back to the question though of the video upload, I will follow up with the representative who's going to be presenting to us this afternoon at Rocket Judge. But YouTube was the example that was used when we met with them, because that's what I was familiar with, right? So I apologize for me not being more knowledgeable of the different video platforms out there. So I will follow up. I will write that down. Thank you.
Arden Zimmerman, show us your face. Arden, good attitude. You know what? It is going to be exciting. And this is new and entertaining, and what a way for kids to express themselves away from that outdated project board and into a world that they know better than we do. And I can't wait to see what they do. I want to see it. I can't wait. All right, anything else? Again, I put my email in the chat. I have that bit.ly. You call me, you email me. I'm at Clear Creek ISD. I'm here for you. Yes, we save money across the board in so many ways, even in buses. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me know if you need me. Bye.